Hello, welcome Year 10 to your practical examination. Obviously, because you are at home, this year I'm doing the practical part on your behalf. There are two reasons you need to watch this video. One is to collect the data that you will use to do your results table and your graph and your analysis. And the second reason is for you to get a good sense of the strengths and limitations of the experimental method that we are using. Make sure that you have a piece of blank paper next to you so you can record the results down as you watch this video. And yeah, let's get started. I just want to start by running you through the equipment list and showing you that we've got all of the equipment here. So we've got 6 boiling tubes. So if I just hold this up, I have pre-labelled them. I don't know if you can see that. You can kind of see that on the video. I've pre-labelled them A to E, and I've got boiling tube 6 there as well. Got my safety glasses on, I've got a test tube rack, we've got a couple of measuring cylinders, 10 milliliter measuring cylinders, an eyedropper, and then I've got potassium iodide solution. We've got hydrogen peroxide solution, sodium thiosulfate solution, lots of solutions in this one, and starch solution. And I've got a stopwatch, some distilled water, paper towels, marker pen, a stirring rod, and a waste container. So stirring rod there, waste container there. So effectively what I'm just going to do is I'm going to complete the experiment as it's outlined in the document. Now steps 1, 2, 3 I have completed before we begun this video because they're quite time consuming and you don't want to watch me do that. So I have labelled 5 boiling tubes A to E using a marker pen. So I've got A, B, C, D, E here, and I have made up those mixtures. Okay, so in each of those 5 boiling tubes A to E, I have 2 milliliters of potassium iodide solution, 2 milliliters of sodium thiosulfate solution, and 1 milliliter of starch solution, and I have stirred those to make sure they are thoroughly mixed. Okay, so if we look at step 4, label an extra boiling tube with the number 6. I have done that using the marker pen, and now we're going to prepare step 5, a 5 milliliter solution of hydrogen peroxide using the measuring cylinder and boiling tube 6. So I'll take my measuring cylinder, I'm going to use this measuring cylinder for hydrogen peroxide throughout, and I'm going to measure 5 milliliters of hydrogen peroxide. So that's exactly 5 milliliters. I'm going to add that to boiling tube 6. Now I'm going to pour this hydrogen peroxide solution into tube A. At the same time, I'm going to start my stopwatch and time how long it takes for the mixture to turn blue. So, pour the hydrogen peroxide in, and I'm going to time how long it takes for the mixture to turn blue. I'll give it a gentle stir. And you can see it's gone blue at 24 seconds. So I'm just going to stop that stopwatch, and I wanted to show you, I would use a piece of white card to check that the colour has turned blue, but just to show you at 24 seconds, this is the colour that we got. So for tube A, I'm going to write down and record that it took 24 seconds for the solution to turn blue. So now, just because I don't want to have to wash out test tube 6 in between, I'm going to use a new boiling tube as we move on to step 8. So we're going to move on and look at tube B. So for tube B, prepare a 4 milliliter solution of hydrogen peroxide and add 1 milliliter of water. So we'll do that now. 4 millilitres of hydrogen peroxide. And I'm going to add to that 1 millilitre of distilled water. Just going to keep that. I'm going to stir that solution. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour this solution on the right here, which contains 4 millilitres of hydrogen peroxide and 1 millilitre of distilled water, into tube B. And then I will start the stopwatch. Give it a gentle stir. I'm going to use a piece of white card just to help me determine when exactly it turns blue. So it has turned blue. It took 26 seconds to turn blue. I'll just so you can see that yourself. Very much blue. 26 seconds for solution B to turn blue. Okay, we're now going to get ready to do tube C. Now for tube C, I need to create a solution with 3 millilitres of hydrogen peroxide and 2 millilitres of water. That's the solution I'll be adding to tube C. So, 3 millilitres of hydrogen peroxide. Two millilitres of distilled water. Going to give that a bit of a stir. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this solution on my right, which has 3 millilitres of hydrogen peroxide and 2 millilitres of distilled water in it, and I'm going to add it now to tube C. And then I will immediately start the stopwatch and record how long it takes to turn blue. Get my white card ready to help me with that. So 40 seconds for this solution to turn blue. Tube C. Tube C took 40 seconds to turn blue. So now we're going to prepare to do tube D. As I've outlined in the instructions, for tube D, prepare a 2 millilitre solution of hydrogen peroxide and add 3 millilitres of water. So let's do that. 2 millilitres of hydrogen peroxide. And 3 millilitres of distilled water. So I have two solutions here. I have a solution with 2 millilitres of hydrogen peroxide and 3 millilitres of distilled water. this is the solution in tube D. I'm going to pour this solution into tube D and start the stopwatch. And we will obviously be recording to see how long it takes for the solution to turn blue. Okay, so it's gone blue, and that took 60 seconds. Took tube D 60 seconds to turn blue. So our final tube is tube E. Use a fresh boiling tube. For tube E, prepare a 1 milliliter solution of hydrogen peroxide and add 4 milliliters of distilled water. So let's do that. Got my hydrogen peroxide, I need just 1 milliliter this time. Get rid of my white card. And 4 milliliters of distilled water. So, take tube E. Got tube E on the left here, in my left hand, on your right, I suppose. And I have this solution here, which contains 1 milliliter of hydrogen peroxide and 4 milliliters of distilled water. I'm going to add this solution to tube E, start the stopwatch, and we'll see how long it takes to turn blue. Patience is sometimes the name of the game in science. We're just going to patiently wait for it to turn blue. So that solution has gone blue, you can see that, and that took 2 minutes and 22 seconds for solution E to turn blue. So 2 minutes and 22 seconds for tube E to turn blue. Now, we're only completing one trial for each test tube. We have done that, so you have the data you need to do your results table and your graph and your analysis. So good luck with that. Enjoy the rest of the examination.